Thank you for calling the Venue Helpline, the podcast where venues share their biggest frustrations, toughest challenges, and behind the scenes headaches. If you run a venue or work at one and you've ever thought, oh, why is this so hard? You're in the right place. Each week, you'll hear practical solutions from vetted experts who've been there, done that, and know what actually works. Because running a venue is hard enough. You shouldn't have to figure it out alone. Now, let me put you on a brief hold for the next available helper.
Hi, glad you called. It's Shannon here with the Venue Help Desk. Tell me what's going on.
We've occasionally received lengthy questionnaires, often exceeding 100 questions, from various people involved in the wedding. We're looking for guidance on managing these efficiently. Is it necessary to respond to each question individually, despite overlap? When is it reasonable to establish limits, and how should those boundaries be communicated?
Oh man, I know how frustrating that can feel. As a salesperson or account manager or whatever your title is at the venue, part of your job is to guide people through the wedding planning process. And it can be really difficult for all the different personalities that are going to come in front of you. As long as I've been in the industry, there's always been those few who would either show up with their wedding magazine. Yes, I'm dating myself. And inside those wedding magazines, there was an entire list of all the questions you should ask your venue, to blog posts, to things they see on TikTok, and all the information that's coming. So it's really not rare. It's been happening since the dawn of planning a wedding. People show up with tons and tons of questions. Maybe someone in their family recommended questions they should ask before they choose the venue. But it's so interesting to see that venues across the country are starting to get these extended question lists of 75 to 100 different questions that the couples, instead of maybe bringing those questions with them on the tour, they're submitting those questions in advance of even deciding if they want to come tour. I also think with the rise of ChatGPT and other AI, it's going to be more and more because it's really easy for them to just ask, what question should I ask the venue? And then it pumps out this entire list. And rather than actually reading the questions that are on there, they're copying and pasting it. It's so frustrating and time consuming as the venue, right? It's also a signal that the couples are trying to protect their time. They're trying to reduce the overwhelm and they're trying to avoid making mistakes. So let's dig in on how we can manage when this happens that you get this entirely huge questionnaire. See, the reason it's so frustrating is there's a huge overlap with the information that you feel like you've already put out there. Whether that information's on your website, on your social media, in your brochure and pricing guide that you sent them, you feel like you've already answered all of these questions. So you're thinking, oh, I'm so irritated. I'm so annoyed. Why are they asking me over and over again? And these forms and questions like that, it doesn't really do anything to help distinguish what matters most and what they care most about because they're just copying and pasting the whole list. So you're left answering all these questions and all these things that aren't even freaking applicable to what it is they're looking for. But if you ignore the form and they send you this list of questions and you just blow it off, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to risk coming off cold and unhelpful, or if you answer all 100 questions, you could be spending hours on a non-booking lead. And both of those are frustrating. One of the things we see is that most venues don't really have a super detailed FAQ resources or AI tools that are in place to handle these things efficiently. And we're going to give you some tips today that I can help guide you through ways to get in front of this. But let's start with the psychology behind all these questions. Why are some couples sending these? So you've got a few different personality types that are all part of this conversation. You've got type A individuals. The type A individuals are looking for control and clarity. They crave full transparency up front. Type A people are looking for information that maybe you didn't want to overwhelm, so you limited the information that's available before they get into your lead funnel. And that type A wants to know all the things before they waste 5 minutes of their time. Another thing you might not be considering of the type of person reaching out to you would be a neurodivergent couple. They might be struggling with that on the spot processing that's required during tours, and they prefer all the information and the answers to their questions to be written information for them to be able to reference back. There's also a lot of young couples out there planning their weddings, and they're terrified about looking stupid or wasting time. They over prepare for that opportunity to feel in control of the whole experience. And then you just get that chunk of people who are just lazy and they copy and paste the giant checklist from Pinterest or the Knot or Wedding Wire without any kind of context. But ultimately, as a salesperson, this is your chance to better understand your lead, not just dismiss them. You've got to think, what's the thought process behind it? Now, I've heard more than a few different venues reach out to us with the same concern. And a lot of times they just want to delete that lead and are like, that's not my ideal client. But you could be blowing off someone who is your perfect client because they're really on it. They're really super organized and going to be a great partner in the planning process. They just want their questions answered. So let's talk about some solutions when this happens. The first thing I need you to reframe your thought process is that you are the tour guide. Sales isn't really about passively answering questions. It's about leading people through a journey of understanding why they have those questions, why those things are important to them. I want you to gently take control. I can absolutely walk you through everything, but it makes much more sense when you see it in person. Use the mindset of you're not saying no, but you're trying to guide them towards clarity. You're trying to guide the couples directly towards booking a tour with you where it might make more sense for them to be able to see what you're talking about and not just read a huge list of questions and answers. Now, you can set some really soft boundaries when it comes to polished phrases that you can use as a part of responding back to this type of email or this form submission. Things like, we'd love to help you get the most out of your tour, and many of your questions are covered on our tour materials, and we'd walk you through all these key details during your visit. It's a nice way of saying, I want to help you. I'm here to support you, but we'll answer all of these during that time. Now, I wouldn't recommend only sending that back. I'd look through those lists of the most important questions that are on there and make sure you're at least answering a few of them. But maybe you want to guide them towards taking that next step with you, but make sure you're answering things like guest count, budget, and basic questions like catering rules and ways that would disqualify you, because you also definitely do not want to waste your time when it comes to giving them a tour. You can also say things like, we know it's a really big decision, and after your tour, we'll gladly clarify any remaining questions that you have in detail. It's a softer way of saying, we get it, this is a really big deal. You could also maybe say something like, to make sure nothing gets missed, we walk you through these answers visually during your tour. Now, for someone like me who's a visual learner, that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be able to see it, not just read it on a sheet of paper. All of those things could really help in terms of the verbiage you're using throughout the sales process to guide them to what you want them to do next. But there's some other things we can do to help get in front of these kinds of questions. We can pre-build some resources to really save the day when you get emails like this. You can invest one time in a super detailed FAQ page. I recommend having a FAQ page that you segment by category, things like ceremony logistics, catering, policies, vendor rules. So detailed that it answers all of these frequently asked questions you get asked. Would I put this publicly on the front side of my site? Probably not. You don't want everyone to be able to see all the rules and regulations and things like that. But when you get this kind of type A personality, it will really help them be able to see it all in one spot. The other thing about having a page like this that's unlinked on your website, but still indexed by Google, is a lot of those questions and that information will be fed into these generative search engines that couples are using to start narrowing down their choices. You might not want to put that much info out public, but it'll still be searchable within Google, ChatGPT, Claude, all the different AI search tools. You can also have private FAQ documents that you can email that go deeper than your public website. So maybe you've got some of those on the website that are public, but maybe you've got a few other more specific one-pagers that apply to the different types of questions that people are asking. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, oh, Shannon, this FAQ page is so much freaking work. How do I build this robust tool? And AI is going to be your answer to get it done. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to load your packages, your brochure, your contract, your venue rules, any kind of PDFs, your pricing guide, everything that you send out, everything you've got You're going to load it in to a custom GPT thread. Give it everything. You're going to give them your website link so it can look through your site. You can give it your online listings. Maybe you've answered some questions on sites like that. And now you're going to use the AI to draft this master FAQ document from those materials. I've given you all the information, and now I want you to build me a robust list of FAQs organized in categories that make the most sense that I can then feature on my website. It will get you probably 85% of the way there. Now, remember to limit things like word counts. You don't want them writing 200 and 300 word answers to each question. So give it a limited amount of words that you want it. So it's short, easy to read, quick, punchy answers to the questions. And then you're going to build that master answers document that your team can copy and paste when these types of emails come in, or you can load them all into the FAQ page I talked about on your website. Listen, sometimes when leads come in, it's going to feel a little more transactional, and they aren't really engaging you in that relationship-driven process. It is okay to walk away, but be cautious and careful. Every time someone who might seem a little more difficult or ask too many questions comes into your sales funnel and you blow them off, remember that that's the experience that they're leaving with your brand. They're going out and telling other people, well, I reached out from this venue and I never even heard back. Or I hear that all the time when we're at wedding shows. Or I reach out to this venue and ask them all these questions and they only answered 3 of them and said, come on the tour. And then I asked them more questions again and they once again wouldn't answer them. It's not really a good look when it comes to the public relations. So you just have to think through the ramifications. With that being said, it is okay to walk away. When you know the lead isn't the right fit, it's okay to really say to yourself, is this the client that I want to be working with? But the thing you have to keep in mind is, where are you at with your sales goals? Are you killing it? Are you fully booked? Are you slaying the day on tours and working the leads and so many contracts you don't know what to do with yourself? If not, think twice about taking that extra time to answer those questions. You're okay to ask yourself the kind of question, is this the kind of couple that I want to work with? If not, you don't owe them hours of custom answers. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't take you hours to customize the answers if you've built some of these tools that we talked about. These long questionnaires might feel super exhausting, but they're often coming from a place of the couples feeling so overwhelmed, or their fear of making a mistake, or past negative experiences that they've heard from friends and family and other people at their wedding. Maybe even those Facebook groups that are like, oh, make sure you ask this question. The key is balancing the empathy with your own boundaries. Meet them where they are, but you've got to guide them through your process. You're the tour guide. When you are in the sales process, they are on the journey and you are leading them every step. Be proactive with resources, clear communication, and confident, leading the way down the path of getting them closer to a tour and to booking a contract. That's it for today's episode of the Venue Helpline. Thanks so much for listening. We love helping you tackle these real life frustrations, but before you go, here's one last thing. If you enjoyed today's episode and have been enjoying the show, take a quick minute to leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. It really helps other venue pros find the show.